Before we get started today, it's pertinent to talk about the vast amount of destruction that was incurred by Chile's native forests over the last few decades. In southern Chile, the 1970s especially saw a ramping up of wholesale bulldozing of native forest cover in order to replace it with endless monoculture plantations of non-native pine and eucalyptus. This led to the whole-scale eradication of the multitude of native plants, animals, and fungi that had lived there for millions of years previous. It's hard to overstate just how devastating this was to the native life forms here. Entire ecosystems were effectively sterilized, and the monocultures that replaced them proved highly flammable as well as dangerous for people to live next to. Everywhere we went in southern Chile, we saw entire mountains covered in non-native radiata pine and eucalyptus, neither of which is native to South America. It was heartbreaking, especially after seeing remnants of the kind of forests that had once existed there but were now destroyed. This video is about an extremely rare and precious ecosystem, but it also needs to be mentioned just how precious this kind of landscape has become. Extensive forests of radiata pine. All of that's radiata pine. All of that across the road is radiata pine. There is no native forest anywhere in the frame there. Even on top of that mountain, radiata pine. That's acacia. What is it, Dilbata? One of the Australian acacias. Oh, God, that's terrible. What was here before? There's a book called The Tragedy of Chile's Forest. Check it out. It's in Spanish. Look at that. That's really nice, right? You like the genus Mutisia, Asteraceae. Look at that involucre. It's a pendant Mutisia with those long styles. I'm pissing right now. You know, we just drove through. God, it felt like an hour of pine plantations. Just destroyed forests. Not a single native plant in sight. Just garbage. Radiata pine for cheap housing material. That's probably, I wonder if they export to the U.S. I wonder if a lot of our shitty lumber that's building the tract houses that we're ruining our country with, I wonder if some of it comes from here. And eucalyptus. Just endless pine plantations. But now here we are in the native forest. We're headed to the coastal range Araucarias. Those giant Triassic-aged conifers. Look at that Mutisia. See those leathery, they're very stiff leaves. They got that dentate margin, and they got the little vining member at the end. Mutisia is a cool genus. Now we're in El Bosque Nativo. Look at this. This was all Mutisia too. And there's Usnea on everything. Just like there was in the Andean forest that we were in yesterday, further east. Now we're going to head to the Araucaria forest. The beautiful Nothofagus there. We're going to head to the Araucaria forest. And the area we're going to was a refugia. It was a glacial refugia for these wonderful trees while the glaciers were taking up all the space in the Andes further east. And once the glaciers retreated and melted, then the Araucarias could recolonize those mountains. But this is some really wonderful forest right here. A lot of cool plants, members of the genus Asara, the willow family. What is this down there? Is that a berberis? Yeah, it looks like a berberis. Members of the families Myrtaceae, Nahuelbuta, Asteraceae, etc. And all the cool, holy shit, there's Psittacanthus up there. Or, I mean, probably not Psittacanthus, but one of the Loranthaceae, the tropical mistletoe families. So much diversity in these forests, and so much was not appreciated. You know, there's been extensive pine plantations planted, but there's a growing awareness in Chile that was maybe not the right move. It's no longer subsidized by the government, and so there's a renewed hope and a love for these beautiful native forests right here. Look at that Alstroemeria. Lots of Alstroemeria. It's a monocot. It's in the order Liliales. Alstroemeriaceae is the family. Let's see what else we got going on. Amaryllis family right here. Amaryllidaceae. You can see that thing's going to get hit. That's going to get pollinated. 6 stamens, a triphid stigma, 6 tepals, and a bulb in the ground. 3 leaves. How many leaves you got there? God, that's a rich duff, I bet, too. Very glaucous. This used to be in the genus Rhodophiella. I forget, they've changed it like 3 times. I don't know what they're calling it now. I'll put it in the captions, though. Got our Alstroemeria right there. Nothofagus seedlings. The genus Ribes right there. The gooseberries, which we also get in North America quite abundantly. And Usnea on everything. Usnea is really the crown jewel, you know? It's like a finely woven tapestry that just dangles all over all the wonderful native plants here. Well, it's not blooming, but you can get an idea of what it looks like when it does. That's very nice. It's a Buddleia. Cool genus. You know, we got that really bad invasive one. Butterfly bush, it's called. Isn't that a nice name? Butterfly bush. I like to garden. We got butterfly bush, which is invasive garbage in North America, but we've got plenty of native North American species, and apparently there's quite a few species in South America too. I remember seeing some in Brazil. Look at those leaves, undulate margin. And is it woolly and scaly? Opposite leaves, of course. Look, almost interpetiolar stipules too. Oh, wow. That's woolly. Lots of hairs on there. Those inflorescences. See, the flowers are spent. God, wonderful forest, man. What mushrooms pop up in winter? Oh, we got that parasite right here, too. That Loranthaceous bastard. Popping out of a Nothofagus. And the hostorial connection. The hostorial connection, it's the name of an app, is covered up in the Usnea. But Loranthaceae is the family there. The tropical mistletoe family, which is very abundant in the southern hemisphere as well as Mexico. Oh, look at that. Nope, just a uniseriate perianth, just sepals it looks like. Not even showy flowers. I guess just those filaments being bright orange is enough to make sure this gets pollinated by hummingbirds. How the shit did that stump get there? Apparently there was a large tree here at some point. Two or three different Nothofagus species here. There you go, there's Matinus boaria. From Alstroemeria, we get a Matinus in South Texas too. But I don't know if it makes edible fruit like this. See, this thing's getting hit. Look at those little... It looks like a little ass. Actually, I don't know. Is this edible? Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm giving you bad information somewhere. Oh, look at those little leaf hoppers. What are those guys doing? Probably sucking juice out of the plant, huh? You know, and then you don't see them, and then they're just popping up there, you know. We've seen a couple little guys. They don't seem to like shade. They seem to like a lot of light. But suddenly there they are. Amongst the Nothofagus and Asara and this little Chiskea too. This is a tiny Chiskea. You know, these things take 30 years to flower sometimes. Oh, this is some lovely forest. We got a species of grass, looks like a fescue, festuca, possibly. We got some Berberis right there. We got a Baccharis, a creeping prostrate Baccharis right there. We got Chiskea, we got Nothofagus, we got Mesodendrum. Oh wow, is this that's got both male and female flowers on it, it looks like. Those fruits are about to mature. It's a wind-dispersed seed. I thought it was wind-dispersed pollen at first too, but I can't really tell what's going on with these flowers. I got to look at them closer. Santalales is the order. And we got our friend Araucaria araucana. This is a juvenile. Probably 30 years old. Not yet bearing cones. Not yet bearing. You can't tell if it's a male or a female yet. Epic forest though. See, look, there's a big one that died. I don't know what happened. Got Alstroemeria everywhere. Mutisia spinosa again. Yeah, these are really lovely forests. These little, look at this grass just Just little bunches everywhere. Nothofagus is this? Antarctica? It looks like Antarctica. Seems like we're at 38 degrees latitude here, though I think it might be a little low for Antarctica to be growing. I thought that was like a higher latitude southern beach. Look, we got, maybe that's the home of some little marsupial rodent right there. It does look like it's the adequate size. We got a Cicerynchium right here, which is cool, weird variation on that genus, if you're familiar with any of the North American ones. Iris family Iridaceae. Ooh, nice patterning. Nice patterning on those tepals. We got a Calceolaria. What is that, Valdiviana? Who's this? I don't know. The base of leaves. And of course, it's a little pouch. Hairy stems, hairy corollas, and 2 anthers inside under that hood. There you go. 2 little anthers, and there's a stylon or 2. Oh, this is a weird one right here. We saw this on the logging road when we were still driving through the pine plantation hell. And it appears to be some species of composite. It's an Asteraceae. Yeah, look at those forked styles right there. God, that's weird. It looks like a Navarretia. Looks like a polemone, like a member of the phlox family. Oh, that's bizarre. Yeah, it's just an involucre. What looks like a flower is just an involucre with 4 or 5 smaller flowers in it. Okay, we're at 4,600 foot elevation now, which is, what is that, 12 or 1,300 meters? 1,200 meters, I think. Maybe it's 1,300 meters. I don't know. Who cares? 37 degrees latitude south. Temperature's about 60 degrees. This is crazy. This is pretty nuts. These Araucaria forests, they feel like it's the Jurassic period. I feel like there should be goddamn, look at that thing. That looks like a foot. That looks like the foot of some damn Diplodocus or Brontosaurus or something. Again, refugia during the glaciation. For this species, for Araucaria araucana, which is a really old-ass lineage of conifer to begin with. You got Gaultheria growing sympatric. Look at all the dongs, male cones on the ground. Gaultheria growing sympatrically. Desfontania there with the little pendant red flowers. Columelaceae. The bark here is nuts. The bark on these things is just, I said wow. You know, I really said wow. Again, I've seen this species in plenty of botanic gardens and people's front yards on the west coast of North America. I've never been in a forest of 1,000-year-old individuals. It's really, really impressive. I can't express to you how nice this is. Help keeps the puke down for a little bit, you know? Look at it. Look at that lichen. It's on a Nothofagus. You got Usnea, which is that bearded lichen, and then you got the Peltigra, maybe a couple different species of Peltigra. I don't know. A lot of interesting stuff going on. Chiskea, Nothofagus. There's a Chiskea, the native bamboo. A lot of nice stuff.com. God, look at those roots. Jesus. How old is that thing? It's got to be 800 years, maybe twice that. Yeah, so this is peak summer here. This is like midsummer. This is January. This would be the equivalent to what? August? So and it's 60 degrees during the day. It's chilly. It gives you an idea of the climate these things need. Everything's wet. We're somewhat close to the coast. The Usnea being on everything gives you an idea of the humidity. These things, they don't like it hot and they don't like it especially hot and humid. They rot pretty easily. You know, I'm not sure what type of rock this is, but it does look like it's been metamorphosed, because it's not just a solid batty. You got these smaller crystalled, these smaller grained bits in there as well. So it looks like it's maybe metamorphosed. You got large grains, and then you got smaller grained bits in the middle. But you know, the forests here are really what we came here for. I just can't get enough of these forests, man. This species is just so iconic. And this is what was destroyed to make way for so much of that horrible, brutal to look at radiata pine. Look at those guys over there. Look at those old boys. Mile after mile of radiata pine and eucalyptus replaced this kind of stuff. Actually, it was probably not the Nahuelbuta forest. I don't know how far east the Araucarias went, but they certainly occur in the mountains east of here, in the Andes east of here, at roughly the same elevation. Were there some in the lowlands in between? I don't know, maybe. I wasn't, I mean, this is gorgeous, don't get me wrong. We're going to get back to this. I just wasn't prepared for how brutal it was with the invasives, with the pine plantations. That asshole Pinochet did so much of that. You know, I'm not saying you don't need to use wood. You gotta have some of it, but there's so much. I mean, such extensive amounts of. Look at a map of both second growth and pine plantation cover in Chile. It's wild. You know, more than the market demands. You know, for shitty Home Depot lumber, and look at that, those little lizards. They just dipped out. They're too fast. They were really tolerant the other day. Oh, there you go. Orange-bellied lizards. They're related to iguanas. Shitty Home Depot lumber and paper. That's where the eucalyptus goes. It gets pulped. Or they ship it to Asia. God, that Usnea, man. Look at that. It's a beautiful candelabra of joy to counteract the pain and nausea from modern consumer society. But yeah, I wasn't prepared for how brutal the forest, the pine plantations were. I mean, there's so little forest cover left. You know, of course you got to have some, but there's a middle ground between take everything and destroy all the native forest, or just, you know, live in a shoebox. There's a middle ground somewhere. Hopefully they get back to this. If I was living here, I'd be growing these things by the thousands. These and Fitzroyos down south, and thank God there's a culture here that appreciates this stuff. You know, you go to some places, you go to some countries, there's no culture there. They don't even put this stuff in a dominant culture. They don't care. Brazil was a little bit like that. No offense to Brazil. Yeah, see, this is granite. You got DG right here. You got decomposing granite. Who doesn't love the beard lichen? Usnea. Ooze. See, these guys got no competition up here. There's like 2 Nahuelbuta trees. Maybe 4 or 5 right there. But the Nahuelbuta apparently don't like growing out of pure rock. Why can the Araucaria do it, though? That's kind of bizarre. Is it a mycorrhizal thing? Araucaria associate with AM fungi, arbuscular mycorrhizae, not ectomycorrhizae. But maybe it's the thinner soils? So they don't have to deal with competition from the Nahuelbuta. But the Nahuelbuta don't get as big as they do to begin with, so I don't know. The Nahuelbuta are not abundant here. We got Gaultheria and Alstroemeria. See, yeah, I was right. This is metamorphic. See, you got splotches. That's not just lichen. Those are splotches of aphanitic, fine-grained material with phaneritic, large-grained material like granite in between. Dated roughly 500 million years old. Maybe a little bit younger. Oh, look at this little guy getting established. It's cute. Look at him. Just enough duff for him to get his roots in there. Looks like there's a rumex right there, Polygoniaceae. I can't tell if that's a native or an invasive. Little guy getting established. See, what are they doing? The roots are going to break the rock open, huh? Muy sucio. God, that's incredible. Look at that. That's incredible. There's your moment of peace. Breathe in. Breathe. Why don't we do some breathing exercises? When you take a breath in, huh? Asshole, take a breath in. Get a nice whiff of that. It smells incredible here too. It's everything you thought it would be. You hear birds down there too? Jesus, man. Precious forests. Precious. I'm so glad these were saved and not turned into pine plantations. How old do you think some of those are? Huh? You got a millenario down there? You got a 1,000-year-old one down there? I bet you do. I bet you do. I bet you got 1,500-year-old individuals down there. Look at these guys just chillaxing. It's obscene, sir. Put that away now. It's just a sheer... it's not a sheer drop-off, you know? Get a couple bang-ding owls, you'd survive. This lichen is making everything... Someone give a shout-out to the Usnea. No one's giving respect to the Usnea. Can we just take a moment to say thank you, Usnea? Huh? I mean, don't get... you guys get all the respect. I get it, You're very impressive, but this Usnea is really putting a whole... It's changing the light patterns, putting a whole patina of this lime green on everything. You gotta point out these Usneas, all right? It's just a fungus and an algae. The algae's the workhorse. The fungus is just housing it. I mean, a fungus is doing all that too, right? Is there a yeast in there? Another fungus? Is there a cyanobacteria? Hey, what is this? Is this the invasive rumex or the native one? I don't know. I wish I could say I gave a shit, but it's true. Some plants I'm not wild about. How old is this guy? Is he having a hard time? He's got his own thing going on. Yeah, man, 60 degrees, high of like 60, 65 in peak summer. So that gives you an idea of the climate that these things like. Much different from the bunya trees, which you get in Queensland. Or any of those tropical members of this genus that you get in New Caledonia, like Araucaria rulei, Araucaria laubenfelsiae, goofy-ass, cutie goofy-ass German name or Dutch or whatever, some European shit. No offense to the Euros, of course. We love them and their little Speedos and stuff. They just got some goofy names. Probably shouldn't be naming plants after them, The whole colonization thing is a little rough to get over, It's they got enough. They got it in. Don't need to be naming plants after them too, or off anybody, really, for that matter. Araucaria laubenfelsiae, Araucaria muelleri. Those are all tropical species. Not so with Araucaria araucana. This is going to be at home in Seattle, Portland, Vancouver. Maybe you could pull it off in Siskiyou County, California, like in Mount Shasta or something, like a higher elevation. Mount Shasta is a nice town. They got a lot of New Age dungeons. They got, dolphin sex parties and shit. They got middle-aged people, swingers clubs, middle-aged people pretending to be dolphins and horses and everything but the furries, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I'm just kind of overtaken with the fucking majesty of these forests. This is Alstroemeria, Gaultheria, Mytinus, Notophagus pumilio. Hello, sir. Sirs. We got Escalonia virgata. Not really in flower very much anymore, but there's that green stigma. Oh wow, look at the anthers on that guy. But those fruits, of course, are so distinct in their shape. You get those 5 sepals, and then you can see that little yellow. What is that? I mean, that's the ovary, but is there a nectary there too? I don't know. Nice genus. Love that genus. Look at this guy getting that in. Haven't caught much bee diversity down here. Hitting those Alstroemerias. Holy shit, this is cool. This is a cool one. This is a bromeliad, and this is a large colony of it. This is Fascicularia bicolor. You can see it's forming pups, it's forming offsets. This has got to be a multi-decade old plant. There's the inflorescence in there. That's an old one. So what is it? I'm not even familiar with what kind of fruit it produces. It must produce a berry fruit, because that doesn't look apt for wind dispersal or gravity dispersal. God, look at it. Look at this. A bromeliad from a temperate mountain environment. How cold hardy are these? You could probably grow these in Seattle too. Fascicularia. Who doesn't love a relative of pineapples that can tolerate temperatures of 20 degrees Fahrenheit? Look at the abaxial surface to those leaves. What is that? Wax or tiny hairs? I'd assume they're tiny. Yeah, they look like little trichomes. Order of grasses, Poales. Yeah, that's insane, man. It's the biggest. We've seen Fascicularia. They grow epiphytically down south. But here, they're forming these massive colonies. That's wild. Alstroemeria. I believe that's presliana all over the ground. Healthy duff. Monstrous forests of Araucaria. Look at that. There's that Fascicularia. Look at that. That's enormous. That's a huge clump. How old is that plant? I wonder if that's a century old. I'm trying not to step on any moss here. Some asshole disturbing moss. It's been there for a very long time. And if we got a flower up here as well. Yeah, they're in the cups of those, in the center of the rosettes. But you can see this is one individual plant, and it's got probably 40 offsets there. I don't know. Maybe more. Desfontainea down there. This member of Amaryllidaceae, whose name I forget at the moment. Gaultheria. See, shout out to the Usnea. Let's hear for the Usnea. There's a strand of it. Just walls of chitin with little bits of algae. If you could really, I'd love to go in there with an electron microscope and just really see what's going on inside the Usnea. We're going to put this, we'll put them there. All right, let's take a look at this. Here's an inflorescence of that Fascicularia. You got to turn the light on. Ah, God, those serrate teeth. You can see why it gets the name bicolor. It's got that, those red patches on a leaf blade. Presumably, because it's pollinated by birds, I would imagine. The birds get in there and drink from the nectar. This is an old inflorescence. It's done. But that's a group of probably 30 or 40 flowers, as you can see. I grew one of those once, but then when I moved to South Texas, needless to say, it did not like the excess heat and humidity. You know what I can't help but notice is that the bark on these guys is extra thick, especially compared to other species of Araucaria that I've seen, like Bidwillii. Bidwillii does not get plate bark like this. There's kind of these chunks. I mean, this looks like cork. This is a huge chunk of cork. There's no vasculature in this whole chunk. You could take this whole thing off. I don't want, we're just talking about it. How we're going to do it. Take this whole thing off. It wouldn't interfere with the plumbing of the tree. What is that an adaptation to? Could that be an adaptation to cold temperatures? Possibly. It doesn't seem to be an adaptation to fire. I can't imagine these things are very fire resistant. or that you get fire in this habitat very often, unless it's a prolonged drought. But look at that. Look at the many layers. It's got to be insulation against cold, and it's probably been selected for over a very long amount of time. That's wild, man. Look at that. Look at it. It's like a plastron. It's like a 4-inch deep scale. God, that's wild. Look at it. Insulation. Just like those, some of those lace barks do down in Australia, those melaleucas that got really thick bark. It's insulation against fire, or it could be insulation against cold, which it is in this case, because it doesn't seem like fire comes through. This is a male, apparently. You can see the dongs up there. See that? See those spent dongs on the right through the canopy? God, look at all that lichen. Look at all that Usnea. Usnea! It's got to be 1,000 years old. Maybe a few hundred, maybe 800, 700 at least. Look at that branch. Look at that root flare, though. It's like a saggy elephant foot, but such a gorgeous organism. Just fucking, it's an antidote to a lot of shit. I'll tell you that. That thing right there. No lichen down below. I don't know if it's been rubbed off from people hugging it or touching the shit or what. Probably from people touching it. But you get further up, that's where the lichen starts. I would hug that motherfucker. I don't care. Fuck you. You gonna give me shit for hugging a tree? I'll kick you in the nuts. Fuck you. Okay, that's kind of disturbing. It looks like, the morning after someone's bad night out. Really. I mean, you eat all kinds of bar food, nasty shit, stuff you shouldn't be putting in your mouth at all, right? More grease and oil than starch or meat. I mean, that's bad. You do that, that's bad. That's another reason to quit drinking, quit eating shit, start eating healthy. No offense. Natophagus, too. Don't forget Natophagus. What is that, obliqua? Yeah, the understory is all Desfontainea and Chiscea. Desfontaine. This guy. Those little red flowers. They elongate. They get bigger than that, and then they open up. You can see some over there. Wow, it's dominant, though. Yeah, crazy. Very common here. This is a cool one. Seeing this from the car, we thought it was a composite, but it's not. Not even in the family Asteraceae. This is in Loasaceae, the Menzelia family, also known as the Velcro family or the stinging Velcro family, and those hairs do sting. They really get you. There's the fruit. You can see it's a capsule. The style is persistent. The sepals are persistent. The corolla and the stamens have fallen off the many stamens. And you can see it's got those keeled petals too. The stamens on this. Let's find a newer flower. These flowers have a lot of the morphology here's got a lot of stuff going on. All right, there we go. Yeah, this plant is stinging me as I'm touching it. It really doesn't like being handled. I don't blame it. There we go. You can see those stamens are in those keeled petals. They're probably thigmonastic, which means they respond to being touched. Then you've got these weird appendages, which I presume are luring in pollinators. See those little red petals, those staminodes? Those are non-fertile stamens that don't produce pollen. And then you got the style in the center, and the ovary is hidden beneath those other appendages, which I presume are just parts of the staminodes. Really ornate morphology here. And there's those sepals. Jesus Christ. But look at that. It looks like a silphium from far back with those leaves. It's trying to be a composite, but then at the same time it's saying don't touch me. Wonder what pollinators it's evolved with. Yeah, look at that. That looks like a typical Menzelia fruit right there. Jesus. Look at this whole thing's just covered in stinging hairs. What a cool plant. Just with Chiscea, Ugni, and a Natophagus. I think that's the first time I've seen a cut Araucaria. That is cool. That is... You haven't seen many downed logs. You can literally just see the whorls. Whorls of branches. Man, that's the largest Araucaria araucana that I've ever seen. That's got to be 8 to 10 feet across at the base. That's a true viejito. Look at him, he's got a couple knobs. Or she. It's probably, you know, a mutter. It's probably a she. It's got to be 1,000 years old. I think the oldest of these have been dated at 1,500 years. It's easily 120 feet tall. Easily 40 meters tall. What an incredible forest. Yeah, look, it's cavernous on the inside. It's been burnt out. Someone had to go and burn it. But of course, a great example of how trees are only alive on the outer few inches. The heartwood is just structural support. Matt almost got hit in the head with this dong, so apparently it's a male. I don't know if that's, I don't know if he's mad at us or what, or just, maybe it was a jovial, maybe it was play. Maybe it was a play. Let me throw a dong at you. I've done that before. You keep a dildo in a house just as an icebreaker. Never actually use it for its intended purpose, just to throw it at your friends. Shit happens. I get it. How many species of ferns, mosses, and bryophytes do you got on this? There's a moss right there. Here's a fern. There's an asplenium. They're linear sorry. You got a Usnea that fell but continued growing. More ferns. Peltigra lichens. Another species of lichen. Another species of moss. The whole thing's just adorned. Oh, look. What's that dropping? Peltigra? He's throwing stuff. Someone's throwing stuff up there. A little bit of resin. Oh yeah, what happened there? There's that bark. That cambium just creates these sheets of dead tissue. These insulating sheets. I mean, this is a small part of what's forming the plates. The little plastron-like plates on these trees. Again, just probably insulation from cold. There you go. That's massive. That's got to be 150 feet tall. Wonder if that's the same one. The archetype tree that you see in dinosaur paintings, in landscape dinosaur paintings in museums. Araucaria. Araucana, or Bidwillii too, I guess they could put those in there, but Araucana is really, really iconic. Look, it's leaning a little bit. Desmaria mutabilis, a tropical mistletoe family of Laurantheaceae. You can see it's a hemiparasite. He's doing a little bit of his own photosynthesis. Got those red stamens, those red filaments. Hummingbird pollination. You can see where he's tapped into his host plant, his hostorial connection. Look how thick that is. So that seed germinated there, however many years ago. Must be 5 years old, probably. Tapped into that Nothophagus. The flowers on these are such stunners, man. Look at it. A lot of nectar in those flowers, no doubt. Laurantheaceae, the tropical mistletoe family. You can see it could do some photosynthesis on its own. It's not solely parasitic. It's gonna pull its own weight a little bit, but it's gonna steal a little bit as well. Now, this looks like it's looks like it actually killed the Nahuelbuta. No shit. You got one branch alive still right there. Is this thing spread from the base or anything? No. You killed your host, dummy. Just kidding. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. Beautiful plant though. Araucariaceae is such a cool family. Look at that. No petals. Just showy filaments. No, I guess those are petals. Yeah, there you go. See, those are actually... Those are petals. The filaments have little attachments. The filaments are adnate to the petals. Well, I guess that's about all I got. Totally incredible. What a special place.